serendipitous when Michelle and I got together with Georgie a few weeks ago and started talking to her about the sleep sessions, which is the project that we want to talk to you about this evening. And she invited us to come and speak tonight, and we are so honoured to be here and to be part of this conversation. So, as Georgie said, we both come, so Michelle and I met 5 years ago when she was Global Head of Digital at AstraZeneca and I was Head of Innovation at Digitas LVI. And we were client and agency partner working on a massive innovation programme. And about 18 months into that, Michelle decided to leave AstraZeneca and I went off on maternity leave. And we started a conversation which has probably taken about 2 years to sort of crystallise and turn into something. But it all centred around how important it is to connect in meaningful ways to other people and take time just to be, and thinking about the relevance of traditional tea culture to so many challenges that we face in society, but particularly within larger complicated organisations. And there's two really key things in there. One is the connection, and we now know that our brains process social pain in exactly the same way as they understand physical pain. So if you have an argument with someone, if someone dies, if you break up with someone, your brain understands that in exactly the same way as it would you breaking your arm, stubbing your toe. And yet, we don't recognise that. We don't treat it. It's our response to people saying that they've had a difficult encounter with someone else is, oh, don't worry about it and get on with your day. And that's literally physically problematic for us. And the second thing is this real corporate challenge of we're too busy to be productive. We're bombarded by emails over which we have no control, and yet we're completely addicted to checking and responding or feeling stressed and procrastinating. We're in meetings all day, and we don't have time to, for the most part, do the work that we hoped we'd be able to do. Most people join organisations not for the money or the benefits, but because they believe that they can contribute something of value or they want to have an impact. And so often the kind of pace and culture within particularly large corporate organisations prevents that from happening. So we started having this conversation about how can we create that time, how can we begin to enable people to make those connections with their colleagues and just see each other as people and not job titles, and what would that enable everyone, not just those who are facing mental health challenges, but everyone, what would that enable them to achieve? And that was kind of the thinking behind the sleep sessions.
Perfect. So, hi, and great pleasure to be here. It's a very strange path to go from pharmaceuticals to tea to standing in uni. That's quite strange. But as an introduction, I'm going to sort of follow on from what Lizzie said by giving a bit of context about my life and how I came to work in tea, and then round up with how we believe this, what you see in front of you here, could play a really important role in improving culture in the workplace. So for as long as I can remember, tea has been in my life. I'm from Essex. Don't know why that's relevant, but I grew up in Essex, and Saturday afternoons were really important. I used to go and have tea with my mother. It was never really about the quality of the tea, it was about the time that we spent together. I then went into pharmaceuticals, I'll come to that in a moment, but tea remained with me through my work life. And I have 3 children, so anyone who has 3 children knows how important tea is. And tea made in this way, where you can reinfuse the tea multiple times, and it doesn't matter if you forget it and you get interrupted 100 times, is even better, because you can just keep going back to it. So it's provided me with nourishment, with time, and with space in my life. And really, I say increasingly, we've just finished writing a book, and I say increasingly, I cannot imagine my life without tea. If you travel in China and you meet people in China who work in tea, they'll often say it kind of lives inside them. And I think now, after 10 years of travelling in tea, I really feel that myself. So I trained as a biochemist. I joined a large pharmaceutical company, and I held a number of really quite senior roles. So at the end, I was the head of global innovation, and Lizzie and I ran an amazing innovation unit in East London, which doesn't even sound like a job. That's the reason I took it, so I couldn't believe that was a job. So I went along to see if it was. And I was destined for great success, apparently. This depends how you define success, but my whole career was mapped out in front of me. But I just didn't feel it. I never really felt it. It was very busy. Coming back to the lady who was talking about sleep, I was very tired. We had endless resource. We had an absolutely enormous budget, and we had great capacity to probably make change. But I felt that everything was just geared towards how many PowerPoint presentations you could make and how many meetings you could attend. And it just didn't feel to me like we were being given any time or space or any tools to make time or space to make proper decisions. And therefore, the more money they threw at it, the worse it felt. So I left. I didn't just leave, I left completely to start a new life in my other passion, which is tea. So fast forward to today, I'm in a very different place. My business, which I run with my husband, is all about creating time and space. And I have a wonderful teacher, and that teacher is tea. It's not just the tea itself, it's the culture surrounding it, it's the people I travel all over the world and stay in their homes with. And at the centre of it is a beautiful ritual. And it's a very kind teacher, but it's quite a tough teacher, because I think the lady at the beginning was talking about just being human. We're all just human, right? And tea is this wonderful leveller, of people. That no matter who I sit around with, job titles, status, it all disappears. We just sit together and we have tea. I feel rested and I feel well. And so my thoughts have actually returned to the life that I left behind. And Lizzie and I have stayed in touch all these years, and my thoughts have started to come back to perhaps the lessons that I have learned from my life in tea and how they could be applied in the workplace. Now, my observations of working in a big corporation are that most of you in this room and most of the people that work for you have joined your organisations with a huge amount of positive intent and positive energy to make change. And that makes it even more concerning that everything we hear now is that people are tired, people are feeling stressed, and people are just feeling disillusioned and perhaps without purpose. And I've thought for a long time, and Lizzie and I have discussed, that perhaps the reason for that is that we're incentivising people in completely the wrong way. So the more tired I used to feel at work, the more people used to say, come out for dinner. You know, I think someone else mentioned it earlier. Let's go to a massive conference. And actually, maybe all the investment that is being put behind that is investment that's not being put in the right place. Because the more people that we speak to, the more we find that people just actually want some human interaction in their day. To just be treated like people rather than machines. And for there to be mechanisms in their workplace for them to sit down and interact on a really human level. And what if that was all possible and the mechanism for achieving a more balanced, happy and productive workplace was really very simple? And what if it was also something that we were really familiar with? Because everybody, well most people, unless they're allowed, drink tea. But they may not necessarily drink it in the way that I'm just going to explain. But the beautiful thing about using tea as a mechanism for creating this calmer, more connected space is that we're all already familiar with it. So let me just tell you a little bit about tea. It's a little bit challenging because we're not allowed any liquid in this space. So this is the first dry tea demonstration. But I figure if I can win you over without any liquid, then we're on to a winner. So you're all thinking tea, yeah, okay, we go round to the back, dump a tea bag in, have a chat around the machines. What Lizzie and I are talking about is tea in a completely different way, and this is what Georgie was talking about that we took into the field. So what you see here is actually what I took out of the bag when we were sitting in the nice grassy area and we made. This is the Chinese tea ceremony. So in our shops, that myself and my husband run. When people come in and take tea, this is the way that we serve tea. And this is called gong fu cha. So, have any of you travelled in China and been to a Chinese tea ceremony? Cool, okay. So when you go in China to have a Chinese tea ceremony, someone will sit with you for the entire time. That makes the English incredibly uncomfortable. So we go for kind of an intermediate, which is that we always serve the first infusion of the tea, but then we leave people to take control. So when you're making tea in this way, the first thing that people have to do, right, is they have to touch the tea. So already, I can't get my phone out, I can't be doing anything else, I've got to get the tea out, I need to put it in the teapot, which could prove more difficult than previously thought. So you put the tea in the pot. The Chinese believe that the body and the mind are very closely linked. So the way that we come to consume tea in this country is highly commoditised. But tea at its very roots is highly ritualistic. So you'll often sit, even the burliest tea farmers that I go and visit in the most rural areas, you'll often see that they will sit and they will take a moment, sometimes just a little moment, just to centre themselves, almost like a sort of sign of respect. And then you take the water and you pour it into the tea, and you never drink the first infusion, you pour it away. And then I would offer it, and you just offer it to your colleagues. It doesn't have to be anything like really, it's just, it doesn't have to be like done in a very special or ritualistic way, it's just a moment. You smell the leaves. And when you drink the tea like this and you drink it often, you can feel that into your whole body. And you feel your whole body just relax. Then you make the tea, so you put the water back in, you infuse it, and then you pour it into a jug or a vessel to balance the infusion, and then you share it between the cups, multiple cups. And then when you've done that, you take the jug and you make it again, and you make it again, and you make it again. And so those awkward moments where you're sort of sitting with colleagues and you kind of think, maybe a moment of silence feels a bit uncomfortable. With the tea, it's lost, because you just pick this up, you re-infuse the tea, and enjoy another infusion. And the impact that this has on people is really quite hard to explain. People put their technology away, people put their phones away, people just sit and they just be. And now, I'm going to hand back over to Lizzie, because now I've explained the sort of tea ceremony itself. Lizzie's going to explain to you how this could play a role in the culture of your organisations as a way of helping people to take time, find space, and actually interact with each other on a far more human level.
So we've intuitively thought that this would be powerful for a long time, and we were actively looking for an opportunity to test it. And over the last 10 weeks, I've been running a programme with the senior leaders of HSBC's Global Communications organisation, who were embarking on a transformation programme. And one of the sessions that we were running was focusing on collaboration, and I said to them that I would be inviting Michelle to come and speak and tell this story. And I did not tell them that what they would also be doing would be sitting around in groups of 4 and taking tea. And we'd carved an hour out of the agenda for them to do it, and it wasn't, they didn't know it was coming, but they had an hour. There was 15 minutes up front where Michelle explained it, and then they spent 45 minutes just taking tea. And as we watched at the beginning, when everyone was a little bit self-conscious and what is this and how does it work, to almost immediately the entire energy in the room changing, and the comments afterwards were things like, I cannot remember the last time that I was this calm, to I was so immersed in this experience that my biggest problem in the world was tea leaves getting stuck in the tea spout, to this was so easy, I can't believe what a difference half an hour of conversation that doesn't have an agenda has meant for the rest of my day. And immediately 5 people came to us and said, how can we get these tea sets into the organisation? And our immediate response was, well, we don't just want to sell you tea sets and send you away. This has to be introduced to an organisation over a period of time and become just part of the culture. Everyone takes time to go and make tea or coffee. This isn't the same as bringing a yoga instructor in. This isn't, also critically for us, this isn't a mental health initiative or a strategy or a diversity strategy. It's something for everyone. It's universal. The reality is there are people in the organisation who may be feeling vulnerable, for whom this could absolutely be a lifeline or a safety net. But for everyone, there are such enormous benefits. So the thing that we want to leave you with in your minds is we're looking for 4 organisations who are willing to join us on a pilot of an 8-week programme, and we'll talk about all of the money and all of that kind of stuff. What's important to us is to demonstrate that it's possible to take a really ancient tradition and demonstrate how important and relevant it is to solving some of our organisational and social challenges. So if you're interested, you want to know more, you want to smell the tea, you want to take some tea away with you, we have all of that. So come and see that.